right, green on the screen in the Russell, just barely back above the 0 line, but otherwise Hong Kong down 0.75%. Europe's down about 0.5%. Most of the other markets aren't down enough to reach our benchmark one way or the other, up or down. We use 0.5%. Here's your spot gamma levels if you want to capture a screenshot. This is the ES and the SPX. SPY. NASDAQ. And the Qs. I heard the options market has been expanded on iShares ETFs yesterday. We'll start seeing it this morning. So think of the XLs, right? And USO, I believe, also. I don't think they're getting a complete 5-day a week, but I think they added Wednesdays. So that'd be pretty cool, especially when we trade USO on Wednesdays because of oil. You know, the oil report comes out. Today, we got a big one with consumer confidence, and this is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, if it comes in looking really good, then it kind of builds on that narrative of a soft landing, that the Fed didn't break anything, and that that it's possible to land this plane. But on the other side, if it comes in hot, then it's going to imply that maybe there's still a lot of money sloshing around out there, and that inflation could come rearing back, and the Fed would have to reignite their hiking cycle. And so don't really know what to expect with these numbers. It's kind of a big deal. This is one of the biggest things coming through on the day, and the rest of these speakers, they're just going to, you know, run the echo chamber. We do have Christine Lagarde speaking again today. And keep in mind, we got Powell speaking on Friday. But we got Christine Lagarde and then ECB Lane. She was kind of talking trash on him yesterday. So I'm interested in seeing what he's got to say today. We've got a lot of mixed signals out of the things that we watch, with the dollar, the 10-year. And it's just really messing things up. So, you know, approach with caution. So we got bonds on the move this morning, looking really good, back above VWAP. ES back below VWAP. NASDAQ just barely holding on to the top of it. The 10-year just got back down below it. And the dollar, while it's off of the lows of the session, it's midway between where it has been today and the lows. So we really need to just see the dollar and the 10-year kind of work together a little bit. And we haven't had a lot of that unity. Nine o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11, 11:30, and 1 o'clock. There are some additional auctions today. They're not the biggest ones around, but think about how the market reacted yesterday at 1 o'clock. Something I mention all the time: watch the clock, watch the clock, watch the clock. That really beautiful sell-off yesterday kicked off at 1 o'clock. It was the auctions. Hopefully you got to take advantage of that. So these are the spot gamma levels when we apply them to a chart. The things that we really want to keep our eye on are the volatility trigger and 0 gamma, which isn't shown in this indicator, but 0 gamma is really close. $4,500. Maybe it is on there if we just scroll down far enough. There it is. So 0 gamma. I guess it ain't really close. And then the put wall, 44.11, all the way down there. Cog line. We treat those as bull bear. So if we're above it, we're bullish. If we're below it, we're bearish. When we're above the volatility trigger, butterflies and iron condors work better. Now, that's not to say that this is still the environment that you want to do iron condors. You don't really want to be selling short dated, short duration stuff. But generally speaking, when we're above the volatility trigger, that's when those kind of plays tend to fare better. We don't have an MDP, and we're back still at the weekly pivot point. That's 2 days in a row. And like I mentioned yesterday, we went 2 weeks way above that weekly pivot point. So the idea that we're tangled up in it now, this is a change event. We're either going to finally break down through that and begin moving through lower levels, or this is going to be where we base and we set up a new foundation before legging higher into a whole new run, which would very likely get us back above that 4,600 and start challenging 4,700. So it's a pivotal week. It's a pivotal level. And at this point, it's a coin toss on which direction it's going to go, because it's directly tied to economic data, not to any sort of technical analysis. It's worth noting where the 10-week is. You know, we talk about the distance from the 10-week, but visually, you know, when we actually see that distance, it's a little disconcerting. But realize that last week and you know, even the start of last week, we were still a considerable distance from that 10. So from that point of view, we've still, you know, stayed underneath last week's highs, and we're keeping the range, but the 10 has got closer to us. It shortened that distance. So we're less overbought this week than we were last week when we're looking at that weekly. The 10-day is these blue lines here. And you can see we've really shortened the distance between us and the 10-day. So we're primed and ready to go. We're not overbought. We're in the center of the basketball court, and we could make a 3% move higher or lower from here without being overbought or oversold. Volume is within normal levels, so really nothing out of that for today. We've got a 1% ADR, so the average daily move is these two red lines here, 45.83 and 45.39. Someone was asking about 1-day expected move yesterday. You can certainly use expected move, especially when it comes to something like 0-day products, and the ES qualifies for that. So what you would do is go into the options chain and just look to the left here. The expected move range for today on the ES is 16 points higher or lower, which combines to 32 points. And you can, from our current location, from right here, right now, you can add 16 points and subtract 16 points, and that would give you today's expected move. Now, this is what we call a dynamic expected move, because it's constantly changing. It's not exactly perfect, but it'll get us there. If we were using EM, that's pretty close. And the high lines up nearly perfect with yesterday's high. Remember what I've said before, if your analysis comes from different sources but still lines up in the same spot, you're doing it right. When you get a number out in the middle of nowhere, then you got to kind of be a little concerned. That lower number seems like it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's 1 point away from the ADR half. Works for me. It's also Tuesday's low. And yeah, you can do it hourly, but it's a math formula at that point, right? You take the ADR of the day and you break it down into 24 hours. But really, you're better off using like an hourly ADR or ATR at that point, rather than using the optionality, especially, the ES isn't bad liquidity wise, but you try that on the NASDAQ, which is not liquid when it comes to NASDAQ futures, and you're not going to get a very accurate number. The more liquidity there is, the more accurate those numbers are in the options market. We're building into a classic P shape in this volume profile, 10-day, 30-minute. We still have a massive air pocket below 4,500. But to get there, we would land around that 4520 zone, which happens to be the lower end of the TPO profile. We can see that we have a value area low there, 4516. Both of the point of controls are sitting up with us at 4565, showing that we had some massive volumes come in. But it also shows that this is where we spent the most time over the last 10 days. We've been here longer than we've been anywhere else for the last 10 days, which we see that in blue. That is a very shallow air pocket. So if we break that 4511 cog line or 4500, I don't see why we wouldn't go to 4550 and then 4520 relatively easy. Like, it should be a nice drop, but we'd have to get through that significant level first, and I just don't see that happening. Not without a catalyst, right? It's going to take some form of news to get us going. No VPOC to carry forward from yesterday. We crossed through that level multiple times, so there's nothing there. We don't have a narrow Globex anymore, but we were working on a really nice looking, nice and tight initial balance with a reasonably decent Globex range. The kill zone move, however, took that out. So the kill zone is between 2 and 4. Isn't that awesome? Watch the clock, right? Watch the clock. So we want to look at these numbers that come in at 10 o'clock today and then go check the FedWatch tool and see if they're beginning to unwind anything. So I'm going to assume you were asking about these charts here and the green area. Because as far as I know, that's about the only place I've shown some green in an indicator. Those are volume profiles, and the green is the amount of volume at price. All right, so a regular volume profile is volume by price, and in blue, it's another volume profile, but it's not. It just looks like a volume profile. This is TPO. Call that volume by time. So volume by time and volume by price. The green is volume. If you were to look at it on your dome or your active trader, your depth of market, then it'll look, you'll kind of grasp the same logic, right? It's what we see when we trade on the, it all just depends on who's your broker. But here's the active trader. There's the volume per price. It's this. It's the same thing. Yep, yep. Come on, Thinkorswim. Wow. It's a little grumpy this morning. We got nothing to the downside. We got Bitcoin up more than 1.25%, and China ADRs or the KWEB up more than 0.5%. And that's it. Miners are almost there. Precious metals, energy, all of those are close, but they're not there. They're not at the benchmark of 0.5%. So it's a flat market all over the place. All right, semiconductors are down 0.75%. Jets, although there's really not a lot of flow to jets yet, it is showing that they're down 0.5%. With Bitcoin products leading the way, it's been a little bit of a rough go, but they're just about back to the gap close. They traded after hours up to this point, and then this morning opened gapped down. So be careful, because we just got back up to the gap to where we closed yesterday after hours. And if all this was doing was running up to close the gap, it could just dump now. We don't know, right? That's kind of the point. So Bitcoin yesterday also, Bitcoin was off. The proxies were doing good, like coin was fantastic, but Bitcoin itself wasn't fantastic, right? Bitcoin stayed, down quite a bit, had a little bit of a rally in the afternoon, and then just gave it all back again. So Bitcoin closed down and looking pretty soggy. But if you look at how coin behaved, some of the proxies, that was a fantastic move. And again, this morning, we're getting that continuation with the inside day breakout already in the Globex. Look at this daily chart. I mean, that's wow, right? So Bitcoin being up this morning, I would be careful of that gap close. Otherwise, the Bitcoin proxies might be a good way to go. And then the China ADRs. So with these ADRs, that's JD, PDD, Baba, Baidu, maybe even things like Neo and Li Auto. But XPEV would be another one. Those are worth looking into with the KWEB being up. USO, if we do see those options today, and iShares products and in USO. They specifically mentioned USO getting some of these options. Not yet. Sure enough, yeah. What do I mean? Not yet. There's tomorrow's right there. There's a Wednesday expiration on USO. That's pretty cool. That means we should start seeing the other ones start to come in. Not there. I'll have to catch the article and get the underlying. But the cool thing is we did get a bunch of products now that start on Tuesday with options expiration other than just Friday. For years, they tested that out on the SPX. SPY was like the only thing that had 3 expirations in a week for years. And then they finally started to expand it, and SPY got 5 expirations a week. Other products got 3. So they're changing things. I like it. All right. So with the China ADRs being up through KWeb, we should see things like BABA doing better. That's not what I expected to see. Same thing with Baidu. Sure, it closed higher than it opened yesterday, but that isn't saying much. And then this morning it's down. So those China ADRs, it's not in those two. JD as well. And that right there, that's why we're up this morning in KWeb. It's because of PDD. So PDD's been doing really not that bad. We got this nice cup, no handle, but this morning we're looking at PDD sitting at around 134. It went higher than that, 138. So way up here. That's going to get us tangled up into all this stuff back here. Not much left to it at this point. I wouldn't try to go long in this thing if anybody's looking at it. Now, on the other side of that, I wouldn't try to short it just because it's moved that far. That's a bad approach too. But what a fantastic move. If we do continue to go up in this 152, I don't see how I can get past that. Even 148. Let's just kind of narrow it down here. 144, my line in the sand. 143.93. Yeah, come on. Call it 144. And that's if we can get another push on this, which I don't think we can. Not today. But that explains why the China ADRs are up, and yet we don't see JD and Baba and Baidu up yet. The thing is, this can be a proxy. They can start going up in sympathy with this. So this might be the start of it, but I would keep my eye on those others. They would be a better trade anyways, right? I'd rather trade something long from the hole than long from the ceiling. I mean, yeah, USO's up a little bit this morning, but not a lot of flows in there. It's not in energy services or oil exploration. It seems like it's just USO, probably because of that options change. So that just leads us back to crypto. And for that, we've got a lot of crypto or Bitcoin proxies. Riot is up this morning, 2%. MSTR, more than 1.75. That's a little bit of a mean reversion play at this point. It's just trying to get back towards the average. CLSK, same thing, more than 1.5, and Mara, more than 1.5. So Bitcoin proxies. Coin itself, with a nice continuation after yesterday's fantastic move, is up again this morning, more than 1.25. And then, of course, there are semiconductors that fit into the crypto watch list. So TSM and there's others, but they're not doing so hot this morning. AMD and PayPal are on that list. So is NVIDIA, but NVIDIA is flat at this point. And Square is in that list. So we certainly definitely have Bitcoin, but we don't have much else. VIX products are up. And I mean, that's a very sorry list. But having Bitcoin at least is better than nothing. So the idea would be watch the clock, see how the econ comes through. Be mindful that any of these speakers today can say something that's taken out of turn, twisted the wrong way, misinterpreted, which can drop or rock the market one way or the other. And just be ready to see a change with them on the FedWatch tool. Because if they really begin to unwind any sort of rate hike, remember there was still some hikes left that they could unwind. So 10% here that they could unwind in January, and another 8% that they could unwind in March. $10 o'clock is the danger point. Everybody be careful, be safe, have a good day.